One of the most prolific serial killers in movie history goes on to make a family fun flick? Okay, everybody, today we're going all the way back to 1984 to look at an awesome movie that sometimes gets overlooked way more than it should, but it was definitely right up on the top of the mountain of the flicks of its day. We're talking The Last Starfighter. But before we go any further, before we dig into this gem anymore, once and again, and as always, to the trailer.
Come on, Alex! They're here!
Alex Rogan had a dream.
You really are leaving here, aren't you?
To be as far away from here as possible.
You get your chance. When it comes, you gotta grab it with both hands.
It started with a game.
You gonna bust the record.
But it wasn't just any game.
You have been recruited by the Star League to defend the frontier against Zur and the Kodan Armada.
And then, one night...
Centauri's the name. We have to talk about a matter of utmost importance. Step into my office. I've seen him come and I've seen him go, but you're the best, my boy. Light years ahead of the competition.
Hey.
Alex didn't find his dream.
Hey, look out! Oh, dear.
His dream found him.
Where are we? Welcome to Rylos, my boy.
A world on the brink of destruction.
You were recruited by the Star League to
defend the frontier against Zur and the Kodan Armada.
Of all the life forms, on all the planets, in all the galaxies.
Oh my God!
One has been chosen. Alex Rogan.
Alex?
Hi, Max.
Is the last Starfighter. For every Earthling who's ever imagined traveling beyond the stars.
Maybe there is a Starfighter left.
I love you, Alex Rogan.
Comes the unforgettable story of one who made it. The Last Starfighter.
Okay, this motion picture was directed by Nick Castle. Let's get into this. He directed Tag, the assassination game. If anybody remembers that, man, you should. I hope you all do. And he did The Boy Who Could Fly, Major Pain, and Delivering Milo, and Dennis the Menace. And he did Tap, which was very appropriate for him because he came from a dance family. And to a lot of you, I know, he's always mostly going to be remembered for being the man behind the mask in the original Halloween. Yes, Michael Myers himself. What can you say? All right, playing Alex. Lance Guest. Let's do this. We're talking about he was in motion pictures like Halloween 2 and Jaws the Revenge. Oh my God, that old gem. And he was in I Ought to Be in Pictures and on a lot of TV, you know, Lou Grant and St. Elsewhere and Knots Landing and Life Goes On and Party of Five and Jag and NYPD Blue. So he was out and about and on the scene at that point in time. Did a lot of TV work, is what it was. Okay, playing Grig. Dan O'Hurley. Let's just cover some of his TV shit. We're talking he was on stuff like The Travels of Jamie McPeters and Dr. Kildare and The Big Valley and The Man from U.N.C.L.E. and Hawaii Five-0 and The Quest and Charlie's Angels, Barnaby Jones and Twin Peaks. And he has movies going all the way back to the 40s and the 50s. And he was in RoboCop? And RoboCop 2, for that matter. And he played Cochran in the immortal Halloween 3, Season of the Rich. Yes, the guy behind the brown mask in this fucking thing was the evil old man from Halloween 3. How can you not love that? Okay, playing Centauri. Robert Preston. Let's do this. We're talking about he was in the legendary The Music Man. He was in Victor Victoria, and This Gun's for Hire, and Blood on the Moon, and How the West Was Won, and Mame, and Semi-Tough, and Junior Bonner. And he also did numerous TV shows, and a movie that was just ridiculous and over the top in every way you can imagine. S.O.B. That movie was just, I don't know what the hell they were thinking. I mean, it basically got attention because Julie Andrews went topless in it, but that's discussion for another day. Playing Maggie, Catherine Mary Stewart. Let's kick it into gear. We're talking about she was involved in stuff like Night of the Comet. We all remember that. And Weekend at Bernie's, and Night Flyers, and The Psychic, and on TV, tons of shit. You know, Days of Our Lives, and Hollywood Wives, and Hotel, and Hearts Are Wild. And she was in a whole slew of little TV movies and shit. So she was around. You remember her from that time. Anybody of my generation remember seeing her face pop up a lot. And there's also a bunch of other little faces in this motion picture. That were people that cropped up a lot back in the day. We're talking about people like Norman Snow, who popped up on things like, you know, Days of Our Lives and Law and Order and 90210, and Kate Kuter, who's things like The Virginian and Gunsmoke and Petticoat Junction, and Barbara Bosson, who's on stuff like, you know, NYPD Blue and LA Law and Hill Street Blues. And then you got, oh man, Vernon Washington. Man, he was on the Jeffersons, oh my, all the time, and Hill Street Blues. And Peggy Pope, she was on Barney Miller and Soap. And May Wyllie and stuff like Wagon Train and Perry Mason, Star Trek. There are tons of faces in this thing that just pop up here, there, and everywhere and are all over the place. More than I just gave you just now. So just keep an eye out. You'll see a lot of familiar faces from that time, from that generation, from that era. Keep looking. Okay, everybody, we're going to do this in 90 seconds or less so we can get fast, keep it entertaining, keep it moving, so we can all get to where we would much rather be. The summation. You got this guy, Alex. He's living in a trailer park with an adorable little girlfriend, Maggie. They're kind of like the trailer park sweethearts. You know what I mean? A couple of good kids, living there, always helping everybody out, doing things for others, that kind of stuff. Well, Alex, he's really ambitious. He wants to get out of the trailer park. He tells all his friends, he goes, hey man, I'm not going to be here the rest of my life just drinking beer and polishing my truck. I want to get out there, live the dream, become something special. Well, he applies to a big college, but it doesn't really work out. He's really down, he's really out, and he's really bumming. But there's one thing that Alex is really good at. Video games. Particularly this one video game that kind of gets accidentally dumped in his trailer park, which wasn't even meant to go there. And this Starfighter video game is his obsession. He takes it, he beats it, he becomes El Gran Campeon of the entire damn planet with this thing. He's amazing at it. Well, wouldn't you know, that video game was really put there by this guy Centauri as a recruitment device to find a starfighter to friggin' fight out in space against these evil baddies encroaching on, you know, whatever the Federation of Happiness is or whatever the hell they are. And he comes down to planet Earth to let young Alex know, hey, I'm recruiting you. We're going to go off. We're going to clean up the universe. We're going to protect this other part of the galaxy and protect Earth in the long run, you know, whatever. And we're going to put a robot in your place so that nobody knows that you're gone. And me and you are going to go off with this band of other starfighters that want this thing. And we're going to take on the head bad people of the universe. Alex gets a little bit scared, a little bit freaked out, doesn't really want to do it. You know, things back and forth. He decides to help this guy out and to help the universe and become the last Starfighter. That's basically the gist of this motion picture, folks. That's, I mean, kid video games adopted into protecting the universe. What more do you need? Okay, everybody. Why does The Last Starfighter work? And yes, The Last Starfighter 110% works. It's a feel-good flick with not an ounce of hate or rage in it on planet Earth, and you will feel good after you watch it. But before we get any more into all that kind of stuff, let's get the normal stuff out of the way. The directing, hey man, it's dead solid. Nick Castle did a really good job in this. He directed it just right for the kind of motion picture it is. You remember he directed stuff like The Boy Who Could Fly and all that kind of shit. He knows how to make a movie feel a certain way, and he does a good job here. Enough said. The writing's corny and it's hokey and it's silly, but this movie is corny and hokey and silly, and it was meant to be corny, hokey, and silly in the writing department too. So, just roll with that. Take it for what it is. The acting, it's the same thing as the writing. It's corny, it's hokey, and it's silly. Yeah, Robert Preston is great as Centauri. And yeah, Dan O'Hurley, he is awesome in it, trying to do what he can behind that mask, which was big and thick and nasty, and the guy could barely even move in it. But for what it was, they did all that they could, and they shined. I'm telling you, it's the acting's fine. Okay, let's get back to why this motion picture works. Simply put, it's heart. It's a feel-good movie. You never really feel any danger during it. You never really feel that anything is really in peril. You're just along for the ride on this goofy, fun little flick. And at the end, it's kind of uplifting. You feel better. You're rooting for everybody in it, no matter what. Okay, maybe not the head bad guys, but other than that, everybody else, you're kind of like in their corner, and you're happy about it. Let's talk about the basics here, folks. This motion picture took the idea that had been used before over and over and over again, whether it was E.T., whether it was, Close Encounters, no matter what it was one of those things where you're taking somebody from suburbia and putting them in a situation that leads to, oh my God, how did I get here? I'm in a world bigger than I could ever imagine, in a situation I never could have dreamt, and now what do I do? But the brilliant thing about this motion picture is, instead of doing another one of those things where it's some kid or some family, whatever, from some upper suburban class type neighborhood, it was in a trailer park. It was in a land of the broke, which was kind of cool. It was different. So it was like those other motion pictures of the time, but a little bit separate. You could sit there and say to yourself, hey, I like this. I'm not looking at some other kid growing up in a $300,000 home finding an alien. I'm looking at some kid in a trailer park with a heart of gold, always helping out the other broke people, and just their little community. And let's talk about that community. It's filled with tons of characters. Tons of people that all root for each other and care for each other and look out for each other. It's one of those things where they didn't need a bad guy. Maybe the guys that kind of flirt with his girlfriend are considered a little bit of a bad guy or something. I don't know. I mean, it doesn't even really qualify. But it's one of those things where everybody is rooting for the other person. Everybody's looking out for the other person. Everybody's got the other person's back. It gives you that little sense of community that's kind of lost these days. And it's one of those vibes that just make you feel like, look at this little family of misfits living in the middle of nowhere. Let's get behind them. Also, you can't overlook the fact that at this time, when this motion picture came out, it was easily the most reliant on CGI effects of anything that has ever really taken place before. They really went to home. Now, yes, by today's standards, when you watch this, you can tell when it's going from a set and a model to the CGI realm. But does it really make a difference? Does it really matter that much? Because the whole premise of the movie is that he was playing this video game that was a recruitment tool for him to go to space and get wrapped up in this space war. And really, for its time, the idea that you're watching a movie that looks like a video game, that was magnificent in and of itself. We didn't care that the effects looked a little bit less than super realistic. We didn't care that the shit looked coming out the back of the starships didn't look like whatever it was supposed to really look like. It just looked like a blue light. We knew it was all CGI. We knew it was all a little bit cheesy looking, and we knew it was the best that they could do at that time in that world. But it looked like the games we all played, and that made it even more fun, and it made it more exciting, and we were at there in the let's just say at the forefront of when this stuff hit motion pictures. It was really different at its time. It was really cool for its time, and it really just got more attention for the flick. On top of that, you got to give a special nod to Ron Cobb and Digital Productions, the people that were really putting all that digital effects and shit together to make this motion picture work. They had a Herculean task getting this shit done in that day and age. This ain't the kind of stuff where, I mean, it's readily available now. Anybody can do this crap on their laptop. But back then, they actually had to have a computer brought in to do this thing, which there was only a few of them made, and the other ones were made for the Defense Department, for the government, for God's sake, because it was so powerful that you needed a room full of wonker computers just to pull this thing off. I know. Anybody with a $200 Dell at this point can do it. Well, back then, 36, 37 years ago, whatever the hell it's been now, back then it took a room full of very expensive machinery and an army of human beings to make a motion picture like this take place. If you want to watch a movie that just makes you feel good and gives you that feeling of, I can do this when the right moment arrives, because that's what this motion picture is, folks. It's a movie about a teenager who dreams of doing something great, and then when the moment arrives, he kind of doesn't want to do it, but then he finds the gumption to do it, and he pushes ahead anyway, and finds out he can do great things. If you want to see a movie like that, if you want to take it in and walk away just amused and entertained in something in a way where you can actually show the whole family and let everybody watch it, then The Last Starfighter is that flick. Okay, everybody, be good. Take care. Be kind to a stranger. Help a friend. Look out for family. But above all else, under no circumstances, ever, and I mean ever, take any bullshit from anybody. See you soon.